Everybody, before I start my talk, because I was introduced as a member of parliament, until last year I was a researcher and academic, but then I turned to be a member of Iraqi parliament for the change movement in Iraq, the only opposition group in the Iraqi government or Iraqi parliament. My paper for today would be Anfal operation, how and why it happened. So I try to explain why Anfal operation happened and how it happened. First of all, there is a great debate still between the researchers and scholars to determine whether Anfal campaign was a new policy of the Iraqi regime and that started in 1988, or was it a continuation of Iraq's policies ever since Ba'ath Party came to power in 1963, then again in 1968. To me, Anfal operation was a continuation of Ba'ath Party's chauvinist policy towards the Kurds, but in a bigger scale and with more victims and more casualties. Anfal is one of those events that left big marks on my personal life, because I witnessed Anfal. At the time of Anfal, I was a Peshmerga, I was a fighter in the mountains, and I witnessed the beginning of the first stage of Anfal. And I personally witnessed the big exodus of the people of Jabati Valley through the snowy and icy corridors to the border of Iran. And with my own eyes, I witnessed so many elderly people who froze to death in the snow and were left by their children. When we talk about Anfal, we cannot exclude the back history or the past history of the Kurds from what happened during the Anfal campaign. Because to me, the history has been very unkind to the Kurds. In the past century, there were so many promises, empty promises to the Kurds, but they were never being implemented. Ever since the formation of Iraqi government, and after that, the topple of the royal family, the monarchy in Iraq, and the new regime in Iraq, and then the Ba'ath Party in 1963, then the beginning of the Kurdish revolution in 1961, and all the negotiations that happened between the Kurdish movement and the Iraqi successive regimes, up until 1970, when there was a kind of recognition by the Iraqi regime to the national rights of the Kurds. And after that, the collapse of the Kurdish movement when Saddam Hussein made the treaty, the Algeria Treaty with Shah of Iran at the time, and subsequently the Kurdish movement was collapsed. And even after that, when we talk about the bad lessons of history, was what followed up after the uprising of 1991 and the big exodus of the Kurds to the mountains. And after that, the only thing that was good for the Kurds was 15 years later, the international community intervened in Iraq. Internal affairs, that they were called. They were calling that affair internal affair, and they toppled the tyrant and the dream come true for the Kurds, and established a democratic federal Iraq, for which the Kurds played a significant role in that regime, that government. When we talk about the events before Anfal campaign, one must admit that Ba'ath Party is a chauvinist Arab party that considers the Kurds as an ethnic minority living on the Arab land. That is the mentality of the Ba'ath Party, and that was the ideology. It also looks at them as one of the perils that threaten the national security of the Arab nation and Iraq. Therefore, it was always planning to eliminate that peril to the definition. However, in 1970, as I explained earlier, when the Kurdish movement was at its peak, the Iraqi regime signed a treaty with the Kurds to stop fighting and start negotiating autonomy for the Kurds within Iraq. The leadership of Ba'ath Party, they needed opposed to the fighting to brace their grip on power more in Iraq, and after that the negotiation lasted for 4 years, and then it collapsed and ended by the regime itself. As you may know, if you recall the history, that intensive fighting broke out between the Kurdish movement, the guerrilla, and the Iraqi government, and it lasted for only 1 year, as I explained, and on March 1978, Saddam signed that treaty. When we talk about the preparation to Anfal, we must talk about the situation on the ground. When we talk about the situation on the ground, the fact is Iraq continued with its scorched earth policy, Arabization, village destruction and deportation after 1975. Nevertheless, the Kurdish national developed even further, the Kurdish nationalism, sorry. Then it was the Iranian Revolution, and the overthrow of the Shah was another blow to the Iraqi regime. In September 1980, Iraq launched a massive military attack on Iran, and that Iran-Iraq war did not finish as quickly as Saddam was predicted or wished for. It lasted for 8 years, and it drained Iraq's financial reserve, military capacity, and human resources. Iran-Iraq war again left big marks on the whole situation in Iraq and had significant implications on Kurdistan and the Kurdish movement. In the early morning of 30th of July 1983, a large number of security police and military intelligence personnel surrounded the three camps in Kurtafa near the capital Erbil, where thousands of families from Bazani tribe were residing. They arrested around 8,000 boys and men from the age of 7 to 70, and they were never seen again. The crime had a devastating social and economic impact on the women and children who were made widows or orphans, that my colleague, Ms. Joman, will talk about that. And after that, we will talk about something else that is very significant to the definition of Anfal campaign, which we call it the Northern Bureau of Ba'athist Party. The Northern Bureau of Ba'athist Party was both a legislative and executive body to run the political, military and security and administrative affairs of north of Iraq or Kurdistan through a number of orders and directives. The Secretary of Northern Bureau had to be a member of what was called the Revolutionary Command Council and the Ba'athist Party leadership in Iraq. Being a member of the leadership of Ba'athist Party would give that director, the director of Northern Bureau, a big power to overrun the whole affairs of Kurdistan. Saadi Mahdi Saleh, the one that we see on the picture, was the first director of that Northern Bureau, and on 29th of June 1985, and according to a letter number 28/4684, he ordered the withdrawal of all